the depth of poverty in the context of multidimensional poverty is that they are simultaneously deprived in multiple dimensions, which means that their deprivation is not only limited to the minimum of 4 indicators, of the weighted indicators, but it cuts across several dimensions. We have 4 dimensions here. So it means that Omar may be multidimensionally poor, but I am. The 24% who are multidimensionally poor, most of them are in Ashanti region, followed by the northern region. And
all right. So we see about the Laves TV Africa. So we'll be glad if you subscribe to the channel for us. Yes, so that be a bit me about more details. And then near Ghana Statistical Service, it will be a canvasum. I see our Ashanti region. You need be social media, Japan, CB person, propaganda near their day. Be what Jenny be on some set now, Koshe be a casse, and ya for those on Monya Santa for near the day. But I share sending a beautiful so the buyer now, no more generalizing. I said, Ashanti region or Mancasoma Mufra Santa. We share reports now. Number more tea, sending districts be almost year no. Now, this report, about the multi-dimensionally poor people, they have rated in Ubiani category. And you have only more you'll be an watching a pa and the capre. It's almost will be a few weeks school some be school da right. It's almost that as a channel. Omode a could about bit me scan be I'll pay the full report now. So without wasting much time, let's watch the Pediphono surveillance in your almost church some at the train and we Laves TV Africa. I'm not really subscribe to the channel now. What do you comment soba? Oh yeah, poor now you're rich. Now poor no. Oh new him now. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for us. This is Laves TV Africa. Now enjoy the reports.
We know when we classify a particular household to be deprived in any indicator. So at what point do we classify a household or an individual to be multidimensionally poor? It is only when that individual or that household is deprived in at least 1/3 of the 13 indicators. And 1/3 of the 13 indicators means that a minimum of 4 indicators. So it means that if a household is deprived in 2-3 indicators, that household is not classified, or that individual is not classified as being multidimensionally poor. They need to be deprived in 4 or more of the indicators to be classified as multidimensionally poor. Now let's look at the results, and here we can see that nationally, don't disgrace me now. Nationally, we have 30 million household population, and out of this, 24% are multidimensionally poor. The 24% who are multidimensionally poor, most of them are in Ashanti region, followed by the northern region. And as I gave the example between myself and Prof, the 24.3% who are multidimensionally poor, 43.8% are in the depth of poverty. Now, the depth of poverty in the context of multidimensional poverty is that they are simultaneously deprived in multiple dimensions, which means that their deprivation is not only limited to the minimum of 4 indicators, of the weighted indicators, but it cuts across several dimensions. We have 4 dimensions here. So it means that Omar may be multidimensionally poor, but I am deprived in employment, deprived in education, deprived in living conditions. And in that case, it means that the intensity of poverty that I suffer is different from the intensity of poverty Prof suffers, because Prof may be only multidimensionally poor in only 4 or 5 indicators. So the depth of poverty or the intensity of poverty in the instance of multidimensional poverty is that this 24% of the population who are multidimensionally poor, about 44% of them are deprived in multiple dimensions at the same time. And so policies need to target them well. Now, so if we look at it across the 16 administrative regions, we can see that Savannah has the highest percentage of the population being multidimensionally poor. Almost half of the population, the household population in the Savannah region are multidimensionally poor, 49.5. And the least is Greater Accra region. Greater Accra region has 11.7% of the household population being multidimensionally poor. So if you look at it from that perspective, you can see that we have from all the northern regions, including OT, you have more than a third, up to nearly half of the population in these regions being multidimensionally poor. And when you come to the intensity of poverty, you can see that irrespective of the region, once the person, let me use this, decides to be multidimensionally poor, irrespective of the region, between 4 to 5 persons out of every 10 are in the depth of it, meaning that they are deprived in multiple dimensions at the same time, which means that we need to address, if we want to tackle poverty, these people need to be addressed in a way that we are moving them out of the different dimensions that they are experiencing poverty in. Now we look at different characteristics of the head of the household. In a household where the head of the household has not been to school, then 40.9% of such households are multidimensionally poor. It means that not going to school, if the head of the household has not been to school, then the chances that these households, 4 out of 10 would be classified as multidimensionally poor. And you can see that education is the kind of something that saves you from multidimensional poverty. Because if you see those household heads who have tertiary education, their multidimensional poverty, those households, is 7% of such households are classified to be multidimensionally poor, compared to households who have the head of the household having basic education, primary, junior high, 20%. And so it means that this reinforces the need to ensure that the population attain higher levels of education, because this can to kind of become a protective measure for the population. Employment. This is well known, and I'm happy the Honorable Minister for Agric is coming in this afternoon. We can see that households whose head is working in the agriculture sector, 34% of them are multidimensionally poor, compared to 6.2% for those in the services sector and 8.9% for those in the industry sector. For households who are not working at all, almost 48%. When the head of the household is not working at all, then 47.7% of such households are more likely to be multidimensionally poor. And you can see that for households whose head is working in the informal sector, it's about 22% likely to be multidimensionally poor than households who work in the public sector. I'm sure many of us work in the public sector, so somehow we are protected. And you see, even those working in the private formal sector are better off than those working in the private informal sector. So this is also pointing us to the fact that we need to encourage getting more formal employment, formal businesses being in the formal sector than the informal sector. Now, the focus of this has been at the district level, not at the national level. And so now we turn our attention to the disparities we see across the 261 districts in the country. We can see that there's so much inequality among the 261 districts. In one district, multidimensional poverty is 6% of the population of that district, when in another one, it is 68.6% of the population. Then in the intensity, and as I already alluded to, intensity is narrower across the 261 districts. But of course, still you see that there is a district where 51% of those who are poor are in the depth of poverty. And we can see across the 13 different indicators, and you can see the one with the greatest inequality or variation is employment. 2.3% against 24%. And the one with the least is mortality. And mortality in this case is focusing on maternal mortality or under 5 mortality in the household. And health insurance follows employment. Health insurance here is the coverage of health insurance. I may be registered, I may have health insurance, but at the time I need it, maybe it has expired. I have not renewed it. So I am not covered. And so we are talking of people who are not covered. And so when you are not covered, then you are deprived. And so you can see that there is a wide gap for those who are not covered. And by different characteristics of the head of the household, we can also see that there's wide variation across the 261 districts. In some cases, it is so much that you can see that the districts that are on the red bottom need to be prioritized for interventions. When we look at the households that have 10 members or more, yes, there's so much variation also there. And any household which is headed by someone younger than 25 years is also, the variation is much there. Yeah, the same way we have already seen this, so we can proceed. Now, in terms of the urban-rural dichotomy, we can see that Upper East, for instance, and Upper West have the biggest variation in terms districts within those regions. Okay, and the inequality is narrower in, let's say, Bono region in terms of the districts. Here we are looking at the districts as the entities. When we rank all the 261 districts on incidence of poverty, we have Asukwa municipality in Ashanti region having the least multidimensional poverty in terms of the population, followed by Ashaman in Accra, Tema West, Ghana Central, and Ablekuma North. In terms of those who are the bottom 5, we have North Gonja, Northeast Gonja, Central Gonja, Wa West, and Napdam. And in terms of the intensity of poverty, where we have Upper Menya Krobo. So you see the comparison here, we are looking at the incidence of poverty separately from the intensity when we are ranking them. And so one important thing, I hope you permit me to do this before my time is up. You will not find it in the national report, but this is found in all the 261 district report. We have provided a grade for each district to identify the specific locations where the poor people are for policy, better targeting policies. Let me see if, I was trying to see if, go back please. I want to explain that chart. Yeah, so if you look at the legend, on the far, that is on my far right, you can see that as you go horizontal, you are looking at a percentage of people who are multidimensionally poor in that particular grade. And if you're looking at the vertical going up, it is the actual number of persons who live within that grade of 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer who are multidimensionally poor. So if you take, you can see that deep brown color down there, okay? It means that if you look at the legend, in that particular grade, we have between 17 to 24% of the people living in that grade are multidimensionally poor. And if you want to see what are the actual number of people who are poor who live in that grade, then you go up and you can see it's between 3,000 and 3,900 people who live in that grade. So the same district, if I have to target interventions, and you look at a place that is a gray, the same place where you come down a bit, you see the gray one, it means that it's between 2 to 7% of the persons living there are poor, and the actual number of persons is between 50 people and about 500 and something people. And so if I have to, within the district, MMD, I have to target a poverty intervention, I will first focus on this area because the number of persons there and the proportion of them who are multidimensionally poor is higher. So this, as I indicated, is a very good, the timing is good that we have this. And we can see that the key takeaways here is that there's a wide disparities across the 16 regions and the 261 districts in the country. And the deprivations are stuck, and we need to address this. It is also important for us to know that we should not be seeking to address a heterogeneous problem as if it is homogeneous, trying to address it with the same policy across board. We need to ensure that at the local level, this is where we need to intervene. And that's the reason why GSS decided to produce the report at the district level. We also need to ensure that, okay, I can see you don't want me to end this. So I think these are very clear. But beyond these poverty numbers, GSS has also made the Stats Bank, where it's an online portal that has all the data that can be disaggregated up to the district level available. So we encourage that policymakers need to take this along with the Stats Bank data to better understand their districts and ensuring that we are able to adequately address this. And we need to create opportunities for the entire working group because we see that employment was one of the biggest area where the deprivation was high in the country. So, so I am conscious that the report is going to be launched. We'll skip this one. But here, if you want to have access to all the 261 district report, you can scan the QR code to have them. And the fact sheet is a summary for each of the 261